Personal branding. Okay. So I chose this particular cover because it's a good example of when we go to a grocery store, when we look at brands online, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you stand out from the crowd with all these products on the shelves, all these different designs and colors? How do you put yourself out there to make a point of difference? And so it's not just about the identity. It's not just about the thing that you look at. There are many facets to branding and personal branding that we need to talk about first that will help you then create some conversations to guide you into what that identity can look like, the choices that you can make on color, typography, etc. So we're gonna have some fun today. A bit of house, or first the agenda. We'll talk about a little bit of housekeeping, the goals of what we're gonna do today, the personalities and framework, which you now have in that Figma file. We'll do that exercise and then go into identity and an exercise around that, and we'll wrap up. So a little bit of housekeeping. This is something that I'm considering and talking more about, is that we're online and I want to make sure your environment is safe. So it's sort of the ergonomics and the posture. This is a 30 minutes session, so it's a little bit longer than other sessions, but as we get into longer sessions, it's important to be able to make sure that your posture is there. I will be recording this session, and this is for educational purposes and will be distributed. It's a 30-minute lesson, and absolutely put in more questions in the chat so that's captured there, and I can provide you with more information, because the 30 minutes is very limited and I can only fit in so much. We can only talk so much. We can talk hours about this. It's something that I really can dive into some great rabbit holes. So the outcome today, I want to make sure that you can identify and look at some of the basic principles of personalities, brand personalities, some frameworks to consider, and then some ideas leading into your brand identity. So I'm going to first put this out there. When we talk about brands, and we're introduced to them, I hit thousands of them almost every day, what are some brands that stand out to you? Tell me, and I'm not talking about the identity, I'm talking about the brand, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. What are some brands that you love to shop at, or you go, oh, they're doing some really great stuff?
IBM.
Which one's that?
IBM.
IBM. Okay, so what is it about that brand that you really like?
It's because of one set of commercial that they did. It's actually creating the simple chairs and also the umbrellas on the street from a poster, which is like really creative, and telling basically what's on the poster is saying they can make a difference. So it's just impressive. It's from years ago, from a marketing course. So since then, like I paid more attention to IBM. Yeah.
So the thing, that the message that you saw was make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that stuck with you, right? That messaging.
Yeah.
And you can imagine some of the other taglines I had was think differently. Was that IBM, or no, that's Apple, sorry. The messaging. What are some of the other brands that people really like?
I like IKEA.
IKEA. Yeah, and why IKEA? Why has that become such a strong brand?
Because it's affordable and it can look really good. The quality is good enough, and
You're talking about the product itself?
Yeah.
But what about that whole?
I can see I don't know. I can put my house like a magazine house, and being affordable.
And what about touch points? So when we talk about brand touch points, we talk about within UX that brand journey, right? So where you see the brand first to where you go, there are many brand touch points. So that could be on the web, that could be a poster, that could be a radio advertisement, that could be the actual physical store that you go into. The whole experience around that, and to BU's point about the messaging, a brand is more than just the pretty thing at the top and the identity and the colors and the type. We talk about brand as the large underlining message and strategy behind that identity. So what we mean and examples are the tone of voice, the message, the person that is talking to you. And so that's a real important key element to talk about, is that how IBM talks to its customers, how it makes you feel, how IKEA makes you feel within that environment. This is what we mean by brand. So a brand is not what you see, a brand is how you feel, right? And so, of course, we lead up to that identity of the logo, the color, the type, which we as designers sort of really gravitate to. But it's important to make sure that we talk about the base, the understanding of that brand and how it communicates. One of my favorite brands is Lego. And when I think of the iconic brand and how it's transformed over the years, when I was looking at this as a case study, I was sort of, well, why is it that this brand works so well? And when we look at that, it's because of this right here. It's called a brand framework. They have a set of beliefs, and this comes from a person, or it's not just a person, but an understanding of that company as an individual and the belief systems they have. So you can see their mission statements, right? Inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. They have this really great voice. Some of the fun personality things that I've seen within, say for the packaging, they have age 5 to 101, right? So they're just sort of adding personality, they're adding imagination and fun and creativity. So they have these sets of values. And when you look at those values and you look at the framework that they've provided and some of the examples that you might look out for when you look at Lego, the partnerships that they do. So, within their promises, partner promise, they do some fantastic collaborations. They have a promise of some of the planet because they use a lot of plastic. So they've said, hey, we need to think about that. So when it comes to brands, think of the personality framework, think of the person that you want to put forward. This is a great example. There are brand personality frameworks, and we've talked about this previously with the archetypes, those 12 Carl Jung archetypes. This is another framework which allows you to simplify things a little bit more, right? It defines the brand's attitude and the marketplace. So sincerity, right? And you can look at those brands there. There are a lot of brands that are orientated around family values. You have brands that go into the excitement world, right? Nike, for example. But it's not just one word that describes a brand, there's many. So again, this is a framework, and we're leading up to that exercise in Figma, is that we want to understand a little bit of who those, the brand values and the brand personalities that we want to put forward. So understand there are different frameworks to work on. You can do a brand personality test online, and that often is based around the 12 archetypes, and it'll spit out an archetype and say, you are the jester with a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So it's never one, is my point. It's never one way to just say, yep, I just fit in the ruggedness personality. That's me alone. That's it, right? There's always just a little bit of other adjectives that describe a brand. So make your own personal framework, which is what we're working on. And again, that metaphor of the iceberg is, we need to know who we are. We need to know us as a person, as how we put ourselves out there. Then that communicates what we say and how we say it. And then what we say then relates to the people that we want to target. And then we get into the pretty stuff. Then we go, okay, this is how the look and feel relates to that. So there's, again, this authenticity way of looking at and being true to yourself. The Simon Sinek, I think Hewan, did he introduce, or she did introduce you to this particular teacher or speaker? Did you
Yes.
see, you saw this? This is the golden circle? Yeah. Okay, so I won't talk about it too much, but understanding, again, who you are is part of the why. So when you put your website together, when you put your portfolio together and you go into an interview, they might ask you, well, why do you want to be a UX designer? And there's an important message that you can put on your website. That first sentence that says, I'm so-and-so, I'm ex-UX designer, ... because I want to blank, 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 blank. It needs to be more than I'm a UX designer, hire me, right? There's not enough there. There needs to be the why, there needs to be the purpose. So think a little bit more about that when you're thinking about your website, you're thinking about your message that you want to put out there. So I'll skip that video and we'll go, here we go. Let's talk a little bit about brand and brand personality and how you make it, how you can differentiate yourself from the competition. What are some ways you think you can differentiate yourself?
Maybe like where you've come from and your previous work, because
Absolutely.
we've all done something different, I guess.
Telling your unique brand perspective and skill sets on who you are. So you've come from a background, you have these sets of skills, you're adding to it, you're side shuffling into adding your skill set as a UI UX designer. That is your unique brand story, right? What else?
How you dress?
Sorry?
How you dress?
You dress? Okay, if you're out there on the street hustling, you know, maybe that's, you know, part of who you are, your image. Yeah. It's not, you know, yeah, that's part of who you are, right? What else?
The way that you speak or write your portfolio, like
Yes.
what you're gonna, the inputs that you're gonna bring.
Your tone of
Start-
voice. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How you present yourself, the grammar, is it funny? Is it witty? Is it both? So there are many different ways, and we talk about brands and products and services, and this is a context of the overarching, doesn't matter if it's your individual brand for UX portfolio or a larger store, brick and mortar, but there's just a couple that we put in here, right? So if you're going to be a freelance designer, freelance UX individual, you need to consider your price. So again, this is an overarching brand differentiation conversation, but you can talk about how niche you are. Maybe you want to go into a niche market. Maybe you want to create an innovative way to do research. The underdog story. People love the underdog story, right? They want to hear about someone who's made it from here or down here and made it up to this. Personal. I like the one about giving back. So what are, and this ties relates to your values, right? So do you have a certain business model that a percentage of your work goes back to a charity? It's again comes back to your personality, right? Going green, you know, you could throw that sort of umbrella in there, but you need to be more than that, right? You sort of need to be green proofing. You can't just say, because there's a lot of greenwashing. But for example, if you're looking at within your worlds, web hosting can be done using green energy, right? So like, there's lots of ways you can think about the green element. But think of, and there's a link here, which I'll provide. There's many ways to think about how you can differentiate yourself. So let's have some fun with this brand personality exercise. I'm going to stop sharing here and I'll share, and you've probably already looked at a little bit of the Figma file. And I will go into that, into that file and then just share my screen again here. So this is going to be timed. So we don't want to spend too much time on this, but what I'll do is I'll put the clock on, and I'll just show you just some context of what we're looking at here. So down, and I've indicated the grouping of this these adjectives. So we have simple, complex, right? Serious and fun. And so when we look at, so this is one column that's broken up into two. So like let's call this like one grouping. This is another grouping. So experimental versus conventional. This is another grouping here in these two columns, steady versus dynamic. And this is another grouping, subtle versus extreme. Now I'm going to put the clock on, and what we're going to do is we're going to go column by column, and I want you to grab one or the other. And this is just going to be like instinct, like just do it by instinct. Like, I mean, just don't think too much about it. It's like, okay, am I complex or am I simple? And if it's, so for me, I'm going to move this one up, and I'm going to move down to here. Am I fun or am I serious? I'm fun. Friendly or professional? Professional. So we have 10, like 10 and 10. We're going to go from 20 to 10. I want you to pick one or the other. So I'm going to put, so let's just focus on this first column. And the ones between modern and like one or the other, I'm going to go, actually I'm more classic. So I'm going to organize these up here. And I should have 10 of these. I should have 10 cards up here, got it up here. So are you guys ready? I'm going to put the clock on and we're going to do that. Are you ready? I'm going to put clock on for 4 minutes. So get your Figma file, look down that first column and decide between the left or the right.
Figma file.
Sorry?
I don't have the Figma file.
Who said that? Oh, Juliana, yeah, you came in late. Okay. I will post that again on the Slack channel. Or sorry, not the Slack channel, but the Zoom. So everyone just go through that exercise right now. Pick left or right. Oh, here I'll there you are, Juliana. So just make a copy of that.
Sorry, and just to clarify, we can pick it from either side. Doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, it does. In that column, that first column, it's one or the other. They're polar opposites, right? So you have complex or simple. Which one are you?
Okay.
Michael, do we do it for like after we've done the first one, do we do the next one?
Yes. If you're there, keep going. So that the third and the fourth column are grouped together. So are you experimental or are you conventional? What we're doing is we're sort of aligning or gathering those adjectives and filtering them down. So Juliana, you'll need to make a duplicate of that. What you can do Yeah, is just grab the draft where it says personality brand, there's a drop down, and then just duplicate the file.
Right.
Yes. Then you've got your own to work with. So if you've gone through that first column, go to the next column, which is row 3 and 4. You can see experimental versus conventional. Pick one or the other, bring it to the top.
Two lines up the top for.
I put those up there because we're then going to go, here's where that group is filtered to, and then we're going to move up again, meaning between,
I see. Sure.
yeah,
So put it at the bottom line.
yes. You can move that line. It's just a filtering system line. So for the sake of time, I'm going to pause this exercise so that we can move on to a few other things.